Hey everyone, I'm Bruce and welcome to another video. Today's topic is virtual reality. The mere mention of it conjures images of futuristic landscapes, immersive adventures, and that unmistakable feeling of being transported to another world. Yet even today, VR feels like a niche. Fascinating, but expensive, with its high-end setups, limited game libraries, and sometimes finicky installations. So, how did we get here? When did it all start? And the big question, was VR even meant for gaming in the first place? Let's dig into the fascinating history of VR and gaming. Before we dive into the details, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy this content. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to stay updated on all things gaming and tech. Alright, let's strap in. Was VR really made for gaming? If you're wondering whether VR was initially designed with gaming in mind, the answer is a pretty firm no. Virtual reality didn't emerge from game developers dreaming about immersive worlds. Instead, its roots lie in scientific research, military applications, and industrial training. The origins of VR date all the way back to the 1960s, decades before gaming as we know it even became mainstream. The first sparks of VR came with the rapid advancement of computers after World War II. Researchers envisioned VR as a tool for simulating environments for training purposes. Imagine a pilot practicing in a virtual cockpit, or a surgeon perfecting their techniques in a controlled simulation. These practical applications were where VR thrived early on. Concepts like head-mounted displays, HMDs, and motion tracking devices, the staples of modern VR, were developed not for entertainment, but for solving real-world problems. The first true VR headset, nicknamed the Sword of Damocles, was a beast of a machine. It wasn't exactly something you could casually strap on for a quick round of gaming. Designed in 1968, it was mounted to the ceiling due to its sheer size and weight. While it laid the groundwork for future devices, it was far from a consumer-friendly product. By the time gaming got its hands on VR tech in the 1980s, it was clear that VR wasn't born for gaming. It was adopted by it. The transition wasn't seamless, but it was the beginning of something incredible. The first VR game, a journey back to 1989. The marriage of VR and gaming didn't truly happen until 1989, and it came in a surprising form: the Power Glove. Yes, that infamous Nintendo accessory many of us remember as clunky and awkward was technically the first commercial VR gaming device. While it might not fit today's definitions of VR, at the time, it was groundbreaking. The Power Glove was based on the DataGlove, a more sophisticated device developed in 1982 for industrial purposes. Nintendo saw potential in this innovative tech and partnered with Mattel to create a version for the NES. The result? A glove that could detect hand movements and translate them into game controls. Two games were designed specifically for the Power Glove Super Glove Ball and Bad Street Brawler. Neither was a smash hit, and the Power Glove itself flopped due to poor tracking and a steep price tag relative to the NES console. But despite its failure, it marked the first commercial attempt to merge VR-like tech with gaming. The 1990s, arcades, VR headsets, and unfulfilled promises. Fast forward to the 1990s, and VR started making waves in arcades. Remember, this was the golden era of arcade gaming. While home consoles like the Sega Genesis and SNES were popular, arcades offered experiences that no living room setup could replicate. VR became a logical extension of this, offering players a chance to step into digital worlds, something home consoles simply couldn't achieve. One of the pioneers during this period was a company called Virtuality. They introduced large VR setups in arcades, complete with headsets and motion gloves. Games like Dactyl Nightmare and Gridbusters gave players a taste of what VR gaming could be. However, the technology was still prohibitively expensive and far from perfect. These VR arcade machines were more a novelty than a staple, and their high maintenance costs made them unsustainable in the long run. Home VR gaming attempts during the 90s also fell short. The Atari Jaguar VR headset was cancelled before release, and Nintendo's Virtual Boy in 1995 is remembered more for its eye-strain-inducing red and black graphics than any groundbreaking achievements. The Virtual Boy flopped so hard that it discouraged further VR development for years. Why did VR take so long to resurge? So, what happened? Why did VR disappear after the 1990s, only to re-emerge decades later? The answer lies in three main challenges: cost, technology, and practicality. In the 90s, VR was expensive. The technology required to create immersive experiences was far beyond what most consumers could afford. For example, the arcade VR setups from Virtuality cost tens of thousands of dollars, and even the cheaper home devices like the Virtual Boy didn't justify their cost with quality. Second, the technology wasn't ready. Early VR headsets were bulky, low resolution, and prone to glitches. They couldn't deliver the seamless, immersive experiences that today's VR systems offer. Players were often left disappointed, and developers struggled to overcome the limitations of the hardware. Finally, practicality was a major hurdle. Unlike traditional gaming setups, VR required significant space, setup time, and effort. It wasn't something you could casually pick up and play, making it less appealing to mainstream audiences. These factors led to VR being abandoned as a commercial product for nearly 2 decades. It wasn't until the early 2010s that the pieces began falling into place for a VR resurgence. The modern VR renaissance. The resurgence of VR gaming began in earnest with the Oculus Rift, which launched its first consumer version in 2016. Unlike the clunky headsets of the 90s, the Rift was sleek, relatively affordable, and capable of delivering genuinely immersive experiences. This was followed by a wave of other VR devices, including the HTC Vive, PlayStation VR, and later the standalone Oculus Quest. What changed? For one, technology had finally caught up with the vision. Advances in display resolution, motion tracking, and computing power made VR experiences more immersive and accessible. Additionally, companies like Oculus, HTC, and Sony invested heavily in VR, ensuring a steady stream of quality content to entice players. The rise of indie game developers also played a crucial role. Titles like Beat Saber, Superhot VR, and Half-Life. Alyx proved that VR wasn't just a gimmick. It could offer genuinely innovative gameplay experiences. Is VR still just a niche? While VR gaming has come a long way, it remains a relatively small industry compared to traditional gaming. The reasons are similar to the challenges faced in the 90s: cost, technology, and practicality. High-end VR systems like the MetaQuest Pro and PSVR 2 are still expensive, and even more affordable options like the MetaQuest 3 require significant investment. However, there's hope on the horizon. Standalone VR headsets, which don't require a powerful PC or console, are becoming more common. These devices are more affordable and user-friendly, making VR more accessible to a wider audience. Additionally, advancements in cloud gaming could one day eliminate the need for expensive hardware altogether. The future of VR gaming. Looking ahead, VR has the potential to become a major player in the gaming industry. With companies like Meta, Sony, and Valve continuing to innovate, the future looks bright. Imagine untethered VR headsets with lifelike graphics, seamless controls, and affordable price points. As technology evolves, the dream of VR gaming becoming mainstream feels more achievable than ever. But for now, VR remains a fascinating niche, one that offers unparalleled experiences for those willing to invest. Whether you're battling virtual behemoths, slicing through neon blocks in Beat Saber, or exploring alien worlds in No Man's Sky, VR proves that the future of gaming is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. So, was VR made for gaming? Not originally. But over the decades, it's clear that gaming has become one of its most exciting and promising applications. From the humble beginnings of the Power Glove to the cutting-edge headsets of today, VR has had a long and bumpy journey. And while it's still not perfect, the potential is undeniable. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the history of VR, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. And let us know in the comments, what was your first experience with VR? Until next time, happy gaming.